The night I realized I no longer mattered in my own home. It wasn't during an argument. It wasn't during a fight. It was during dinner. A dinner that I paid for. A house I built. A life I thought I was leading as a husband. But that night, I was not a husband. I was an extra seat at the table. My wife didn't even look at me when she said it. "Can you sit somewhere else tonight? We need space." We. That word hit harder than anything else, because we didn't include me. Across the table sat a man I had never seen before, calm, smiling, comfortable in my house, like he had always belonged there. And my wife, she didn't even introduce him. She just placed him in my seat and looked at me like I was the guest. I remember standing there for a few seconds, waiting for someone to say it was a joke. Nobody did. So I quietly took my plate, walked to the corner of the room, and sat alone. Behind me, laughter started. Not mine. Hers. That was the moment something inside me didn't break. It switched off. Because when a man is erased from his own table, he doesn't argue. He observes. And I observed everything. The way she leaned closer to him when she spoke. The way she ignored my presence like I was furniture. The way that man looked at me once and smirked. He knew. And she allowed it. Dinner ended like I didn't exist. No apology. No explanation. Just silence where my name used to be. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office, staring at one document. The deed of the house. My house. The house I bought before marriage. The house I paid every installment for. The house she moved into like it was ours. And I saw something I had ignored for years. Her name was there, legally attached to everything I had built. And suddenly, the dinner table didn't feel like the real betrayal. The real betrayal was paperwork. Because emotions can be denied, but documents cannot. The next morning, I did not argue. I did not ask questions. I did not confront her new guest. I just smiled. For the first time in a long time, I smiled at my own silence. Because silence is dangerous when it belongs to a man who has decided. 2 days later, I visited my lawyer. He looked at me carefully. "You sure about this?" I said one line. I want her name removed from everything she never respected. No anger in my voice, just clarity. And that is more powerful than rage. The legal process didn't take long, because truth doesn't need effort when it is already documented. Meanwhile at home, nothing changed. Or maybe it did, but she didn't notice. She still brought him around, still laughed louder when I was nearby, still acted like I was a background character in my own marriage. But now, I was watching differently. I noticed small things. Phone calls she would step outside for. Messages she would hide quickly. Plans she never mentioned anymore. And that man, he started visiting more often, as if he was already planning a role in a house that wasn't his. But I let it all happen. Because I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. Then came the final day. A normal evening. She came home early, surprised I was still there. She smiled awkwardly. "Dinner tonight?" I nodded. "Of course." For the first time in weeks, she looked relieved, because she thought I was still the same man who sat quietly at the corner. But I wasn't. That night, I set the table myself. 3 plates again, just like before. She brought him with her. He looked confident, too confident. And she looked comfortable, like nothing had changed. We all sat down, the same table, the same house, but not the same reality. Halfway through dinner, I stood up, slowly. Both of them looked at me, confused. I walked to the drawer and placed a folder on the table. No shouting, no drama, just paper. Inside that folder was everything. The updated deed, the legal removal of her ownership, and a separation notice already filed. I pushed it gently toward her. She laughed nervously. "What is this?" I said calmly. "This is what you wanted, space." Her smile faded, because she finally understood. This wasn't a fight. This was a conclusion. The man beside her tried to speak. I stopped him with one sentence. "You don't need to speak in a house you were never invited into." Silence. Heavy silence. The same silence she gave me at that dinner table. She opened the papers. Her hands started shaking. "No. You can't just." I already did. My voice didn't rise, because power doesn't shout. It confirms. She looked at me like she had just realized something too late. That the man she replaced was the one holding everything together, not emotionally, legally, structurally, completely. The man beside her stood up slowly and left without a word, because some people only stay when there is comfort, not consequences. She stayed seated, staring at the papers, then at me, waiting for anger, waiting for revenge, waiting for chaos. But I had none left, because I had already moved past that stage. I simply said, "You replaced me at the dinner table," then paused. "I just finalized the replacement you started." And I walked out of the room, not angry, not broken, just done. Outside, for the first time in years, I felt silence that belonged to me. Not rejection, not humiliation, just control. And that is where the story really ends, because losing a seat at the table hurts, but losing access to everything behind that table, that changes everything.